The story I'm about to tell might sound like an urban legend, but your heart will sink when you find out that it actually happened in real life, right in the middle of a busy city with neighbors all around and a television still playing. How could someone disappear for 2 whole years without a single person noticing? And how does life vanish in silence in a city full of people? So without any further delay, let's go back and try to understand what really happened to Joyce Carol Vincent. Joyce Carol Vint was born on October 19, 1965 in West London. Her family came from Grenada in the Caribbean. Her father, Lawrence, was a carpenter of African origin, and her mother, Iris, was a housewife of Indian origin. Joyce was the youngest in her family. She had 4 older sisters. So, she was the 5th child. Her childhood was not easy. When she was only 11 years old, her mother died after a medical operation went wrong. This was a huge shock for Joyce because she was very close to her mother. After her mother's death, her father did not take care of her or her sisters. He was cold and distant, and he spent most of his time flirting with other women. He did not care much for his children. Because of this, Joyce's older sisters had to take care of her and help her grow up. Her father slowly disappeared from her life, and soon he was completely out of the picture. Joyce did not like school. She left school at the age of 16 without getting any diploma. By the time she was 20 years old, in 1985, she started working as a secretary in a shipping company. She worked there for a few years and then she moved to a Japanese company, again as a secretary. After 6 years working as a secretary, she joined a famous financial company called Ernst & Young. She stayed at Ernst & Young for 4 years from 1997 to 2001. She had a very good job there. She was responsible for making large money transfers, which was a big responsibility. She was paid well and respected at work, but in March 2001, Joyce suddenly quit her job. No one knows why she left, and she never told anyone the real reason. Joyce was described as a very intelligent and beautiful woman. She had a strong personality and was attractive to many people. After she left her job, she went to a shelter for victims of domestic violence in a city called Art and Gain. This shows that Joyce was suffering in her private life, probably because of a violent partner. The identity of this partner is still unknown. While she was staying at the shelter, Joyce worked as a housekeeper in a cheap hotel in the area. During this time, she slowly lost contact with her family. There was no big fight or argument, but she just stopped talking to them. Her relationship with her father was always bad, but she did not have any problems with her sisters or other family members. Her family is described as loving and normal, so there was no obvious reason for her to leave. Some people think she was ashamed of being a victim of violence, so she stayed away. Others think she was trying to hide from her violent partner, so she did not want anyone to know where she was. 2 years later, in February 2003, when Joyce was 38 years old, she moved into an apartment in Wood Green Shopping City. This apartment was meant for people who had suffered domestic violence. Joyce was very private and did not like to talk about her problems. According to the Glasgow Herald, Joyce's friends thought she was someone who ran away from her problems. If she had an argument at work, she would leave her job. She moved from one apartment to another in London. She did not answer phone calls and did not seem to have any close friends. She only spent time with strangers, usually people she met through new boyfriends, colleagues, or roommates. In 2003, Joyce cut off all contact with her family. She did not have any close friends and she was completely alone. In November 2003, she got sick and had to go to the hospital because of an ulcer. She stayed in the hospital for 2 days. The saddest part is that in the emergency contact box, she wrote the name of her banker. This shows how alone she was. She did not have anyone else to call. After 2 days, she got better and went home, but after that, no one heard from her again. Her family thought she was just keeping a low profile, and they did not worry too much because she had moved a lot before. They did not even know where she lived. A month after her hospital stay in December 2003, a bad smell started to spread in the building where Joyce lived. Everyone noticed it, but they thought it was just the garbage outside. No one thought it could be something serious. People stopped seeing Joyce around the building. They thought she had moved out and that the apartment was empty, but one strange thing was that one of the windows in her apartment was always open, no matter the weather, rain, snow, or wind. The window never moved and no one paid attention to it. Another strange thing was that even though people thought the apartment was empty, the television was always on. The postman kept delivering mail under her door, and no one thought it was strange. Months went by and some of her sisters started to worry, but they did not know where to look for her. 3 years passed before anyone found out what had happened to Joyce. After 3 years, the truth was discovered. Joyce had died in her apartment and no one had noticed. She was so alone that no one missed her for a long time. The apartment was finally checked and her body was found. Despite her isolation, Joyce kept up appearances. She paid her rent partly through social services and the rest by direct debit from her account. This continued even after her death, which is one reason why nobody noticed she was missing. Social services paid about half the rent, and the rest was supposed to come from Joyce. Over time, unpaid rent started to build up. After almost 3 years, there was more than £2,400 in unpaid rent. The building managers decided to evict her, and the eviction was scheduled for January 25, 2006. When the bailiffs arrived to evict Joyce, they found the door locked from the inside and double-locked. They could hear the television still on. A locksmith opened the door, and a large pile of mail blocked the entrance. Inside, they found Joyce's body on the sofa in a small living room. She was surrounded by Christmas presents she had been wrapping and a bag of groceries. The heating and television were still running. The fridge was full of food with best before dates from November 2003. Crockery was stacked in the sink. The scene showed that Joyce had died suddenly, probably around Christmas 2003. Joyce's body was so decomposed that only her skeleton remained. The only way to identify her was by comparing her dental records to an old photograph. The cause of death could not be determined because of the advanced state of decomposition, but police believed she died of natural causes, possibly from an asthma attack or complications from a peptic ulcer. Joyce was only 38 years old when she died. Her sisters and family were devastated by the news. They had tried many times to contact her. They even hired a private detective to find her new address, but Joyce never replied to their letters or calls. They thought she simply did not want to be in contact anymore. The family later explained that Joyce was always secretive and could move or change relationships without telling anyone. She did not confide in people, even those close to her. Neighbors in her building did not notice anything unusual except for the constant sound of the television and a bad smell. One neighbor, Michael Dobbs, said he often saw black insects crawling near her flat and noticed a strange smell, but he never made the connection. Most people assumed Joyce had moved away for a better life, and no one realized she was still in her flat, dead for years. After the shocking discovery of Joyce Carol Vinson's body in her London flat, filmmaker Carol Morley became determined to understand who Joyce really was and how her life ended in such total isolation. The story of Joyce's lonely death had appeared in newspapers, but there were almost no details. No photos, no personal history, not even her age or background. For Carol, this was not enough. She wanted to know the real woman behind the headlines, so she began her own investigation, which would last several years and involve hundreds of hours of searching, interviewing, and piecing together fragments of a lost life. Carol started by placing ads in local newspapers and online asking, "Do you know Joyce Carol Vincent?" She even rented space on the side of a taxi driving through London with the same question. Her hope was that anyone who had known Joyce would come forward. Slowly, responses began to arrive. The first big breakthrough came from Martin Leicester, a former boyfriend who had dated Joyce when she was about 20 years old, around 1985. At that time, Joyce was working as a secretary for a Japanese shipping company in London. Martin remembered her as a hardworking, intelligent, and always well-dressed. he was shocked to learn that she had died alone in social housing, as she had once earned a good salary and seemed to have a bright future. Martin and Joyce had stayed in touch until about 2002, exchanging messages now and then. When Martin saw Carol's ad, he realized the tragedy that had happened. He gave Carol several photographs of Joyce, finally putting a face to the name for the first time in the investigation. He described her as beautiful, with striking hair inherited from her Indian mother, and said that many people thought she looked like Whitney Houston. Martin also explained that Joyce had moved frequently, sometimes changing her address at least once a year. He showed Carol his old address book, where the letter J was filled with Tipp-Ex from all the times he had to update her contact details. This constant moving made it even harder for friends and family to keep track of her. Martin put Carol in touch with John, a mutual friend and former flatmate of Joyce. John had seen the news about a woman found dead on her sofa in front of the TV, but he never imagined it could be Joyce. He remembered their times together in a big group of friends, going out and enjoying life. John said that Joyce was always surrounded by people, especially men who were drawn to her beauty and intelligence. He believed that being so attractive was sometimes a burden for her, as it brought unwanted attention and pressure. John regretted not making more effort to see her in person before she disappeared from his life. Carol's search led her to other people from Joyce's past. She found Kirk, a musician who had rented Joyce a room in the late 1980s. Kirk remembered her love for singing and her dreams of becoming a pop star. He was surprised to learn that Joyce had died alone at 38, as she had always seemed to have good friends and a good social life. Kirk wondered if Joyce would have been happier if she had pursued her music more seriously, instead of taking a different path. He recalled that Joyce had a circle of friends, including several bankers from the city of London, and that she once recorded music at his house, though the tape was later lost. Carol also found Catherine Clark, an old friend and former roommate. Catherine said that Joyce had only one other close friend besides her, and that she was often surrounded by men who wanted to be close to her. Catherine was not surprised that Joyce ended up in a women's refuge, as many men in her life could be possessive or even aggressive in their efforts to keep her attention. Catherine described Joyce as always impeccably dressed, from head to toe, and said that she was a private person who did not easily share her feelings or problems. Another important contact was Jason, a former boyfriend. Jason explained that Joyce came from a working-class background and was 5 years older than him. As always, don't hesitate to comment down your thoughts on this case, and while you're down there, make sure to smash that subscribe button as well.